Javier Mercedes here with Scott Clark, DP out of Austin, works all over the place. Undead Batteries on IG. We are talking about the Alexa, what is this?
This is the XT Plus.
By Arri. He's actually going to start breaking down what goes into the components and things of that nature and how these types of cameras, why you're paying the certain money that you are to get those certain benefits and all those stuff. What is up, Merce Nation? Javier Mercedes here, and I'm a curious individual, especially when it comes to video tech and cameras. And I've grown up in the videography business using prosumer cameras like the Canon 7D, the Sony RX4, and now I have the Sony A7 III. But I wanted to sit down with somebody that has those really, really expensive cameras. I'm talking about the Red and the Arri cameras of the world, the things that make motion picture videos. And since I've never used a Red or an Arri camera before, I feel like I have a lot of questions that a lot of other YouTubers and content creators probably have. So if you guys are interested in that kind of material, I have a series of these videos coming out where I just sit down with people that use these cameras on a day-to-day basis, and I ask them questions that I think other people would be interested to hear about these more expensive pieces of video equipment. On the last episode, we were talking about this Red camera. I was comparing it to something like the Sony FS7. Today, we're going to talk about this Alexa here in comparison to something like the Sony. If you already saw the Red, then cool, check that one out, but let's go ahead and get this off. The first thing that I noticed with this camera is that it is heavy as balls. It is so heavy. A lot of the people that I follow on Instagram that are camera people, it's an Arri camera on their Steadicam. Like Steadicam operators. Yeah. Is this the thing that's on it most of the time?
A lot of times, yes.
That's crazy.
So weird thing, just particular to Steadicams, and I'm talking like
Steadicam operator. So if you watch like the NFL or something like that, it's those people with the harness and it's an actual arm thing, as opposed to somebody that has a Ronin or a Movi or something like that with just this kind of steady, or a gimbal versus Steadicam.
So yeah, a lot of people when they think Steadicam, they don't necessarily think of what you're talking about, but that is exactly right. In a lot of cases, those operators I've heard like having more weight. It's actually a benefit in some, because at that point it's more about balance and keeping the camera obviously steady. And the more, if you think about it just in simple terms, the more mass this thing has, the less prone it is to moving from where it is, right? It's physics. And this is actually would probably be considered a pretty stripped down setup compared to a lot of movies, like what you'd see behind the scenes of like, a Roger Deakins set. Some version of this camera has shot probably every Oscar-winning cinematography. Red, for all its benefits, has not won an Oscar that I'm aware of for cinematography ever. And I think this one has gotten almost
all of them.
Almost all of, at least in the digital world, I think this one's gotten almost all of them.
I was watching, there's a great YouTuber called Potato Jet, and his you may have seen his video, but all he does is he takes cameras like this, an Alexa or a Red, and he puts it up against an iPhone, and then he puts it up against a Samsung Galaxy, and he's like, all right, how does this camera look to this? He's a hilarious YouTuber. You should check him out. And he plays you like two things back to back, and in some cases I'm like, man, the iPhone,
uncomfortably close.
There's definitely a dynamic range there. There's so much smoothness, but to a viewer that's not looking for that stuff, it's like, how much more percentage benefit is it? It's getting closer.
It is.
And it's scary that an iPhone, something that you hold in your pocket, is like, you're talking about moving a camera, where is this? It's like, it's crazy.
No, it is. The world is changing quickly.
Yeah.
The counter to that position is in ideal circumstances, almost any modern camera is going to be able to do probably within 10% of what these proper cinema cameras can do. It's like that extra, like hard to find 10%, and especially in non-ideal conditions, that really differentiates cameras like all three of these from an iPhone. Say the thing that distinguishes an Alexa. I'll swing this monitor around if I can get this. So I don't know how much you can see. What are we seeing?
What's crazy is he was just doing that, and just how the picture looks on the monitor right there is like, God, that looks. It's like compared to what we're looking at right now coming out of the A7S, it's like, Jesus Christ, that looks beautiful.
It's I mean, it's one of those situations. It just gets all the little things right. And we talked a little bit about how you feel certain aspects of an image without being able to necessarily like put your finger on them, right? You know it when you see it, even if you can't say what it is. But it's got more dynamic range. You can read spec sheets for Ursas, Reds, whatever. There's not really another camera that has the dynamic range, particularly in the highlights of this camera. In addition to that, the color rendition, color separation, there are a lot of ways to say it, but basically this camera gets color more right than any other camera.
Something like the Alexa, this footage that I was looking at the other day, it's softer, isn't it? Straight from camera. Like, I'm assuming there's settings that you can do.
Cameras like both of these really are designed to, if you're gonna do sharpening, it should be done in post. They use what's called an OLPF, which stands for optical low pass filter. It's different than what you find in a stills camera. A stills camera is designed to give you just the absolute sharpest, you know, like an A7. You know, its goal is to give you sharp still picture quality. One of the things you'll notice about a camera like this versus cameras that have more still image geared OLPFs is moire, however you want to say that. I think I'm saying that right, but moire and aliasing. The sharpness trade-off gives you'll never have to worry about someone wearing too tight of a pattern on their shirt or the roof of a house looking like it's got waves going through it.
Or you're shooting through a mesh of a window. And
it's
like, what is this?
And there's a rainbow all of a sudden. And you're like,
that's my sound effect
there?
for moire.
And just jagged edges if you blow up the picture. There are no artificially, digitally jagged edges anywhere in these frames unless something's wrong with the camera. They're designed to sharpen after the fact and get a proper sharp straight line rather than a stair-stepping thing when you blow it up. It sounds like a little thing, and when you're watching stuff on like a small, like your laptop or your phone, you're probably not going to notice it very often, but a movie that's being projected 60 feet high in front of you, you can tell the difference. You can really see it.
What is the fastest that you can shoot frame rate, and what is the highest resolution that this camera can do at that highest frame rate? So
it won't go quite as fast as the Red. It'll do 120. It may, with an upgrade, I think you can do a little bit faster, but the biggest difference that makes a lot of difference, this one uses the entire sensor. This version of the Alexa maxes out at 3.2K. There are other newer versions that go up to, there's the Alexa 65, which is literally 3 of these sensors stacked side by side, essentially,
just to make one
image. And so that'll shoot, I suppose if it's 3 of those, you do the math. I think that they do something a little bit different, but the point is, Alexa's selling point has never been resolution. It's always just been, it gets the picture right. Like the quality of the image is second to none. Even when you're shooting, the high speed stuff and it's only 2K or 3.2K,
still looks amazing.
It looks better. Skyfall, Roger Deakins shot that. He shot Skyfall on Alexas just like this one, and they blew it up, the 2K image, they blew up to 4K to master it, and even then it was sharper. I'm not going to start any wars here, but even then it was sharper than like the native 4K from certain other cameras. So there's more at work behind the scenes on this camera than you might think just by looking at it.
The buttons and the accessibility of it. How fast can you do things? So if you're switching from slow-mo to normal 23.976, like talking head, whatever, how fast would that be on this camera?
So that particular operation is actually not crazy fast. It takes a little bit of time. If you look at the side of this camera, you'll notice like there are hard buttons for everything. You can see the functions are very accessible. There's not a whole lot of menu to navigate through. All of the settings that your assistant camera would be using are right here on the screen. The buttons it's easy to navigate. There's a scroll wheel to get through the menus, and it's reliable. Everything works the way that it's intended to. And the difference between a camera like this and a camera, in this aspect at least, a camera like an Arri versus a Sony, a Red, a Canon, these cameras are all largely designed by engineers, not filmmakers. And don't take me in the wrong way. Like obviously this was made by engineers, right? But the thought process behind making this camera put the filmmaker first. They thought of everything that you would use in a cinema setting on set. What is the quickest way to do all of these common things? Where should these buttons be so that it's accessible, so I can be shooting on this side, and then on the AC side, he's got everything he needs to fix, change, do whatever he wants to do or I ask him to do. Everything is there. There are programmable hotkeys, so you can custom map settings to different buttons, which is common, but all of the stuff that you would use on a typical higher budget set is right there. One of the things that makes or breaks budgets is speed, how fast you can get shots done. If you can roll through a day's shoot and get, 20% more stuff done because all of the operations went quicker, you add that up over the course of a full film, 20, 30, 40 days of work, the economy works out a lot better to be able to get stuff done quicker. You're better off paying more money to get something that operates right.
Yep. And
you'll save money on the back end.
So it can only go 2.7?
3.2.
3.2. Is that still in 16:9 or what is that?
So that is actually just a little bit different than 16:9. I think they still refer to it as 16:9 mode, but you're using the full sensor to do it. And one of the things that's nice about the Alexa is that you can't quite do on this one. If you ever see a J.J. Abrams movie and you see those anamorphic flares, he loves to use anamorphic lenses. This will do full height anamorphic, which is different than a lot of other cameras will do. I'm trying to think of a good succinct way to put this.
In my understanding, anamorphic is when you put that lens on there, you have a normal, so this camera, 16:9, right? And in that square. But when you put an anamorphic lens on there, the way that the light and everything goes through the lens is different. And it's meant for a way widescreen shot.
Exactly.
And what happens is you're using the same amount of pixels or whatever that is on maybe you're using the same amount of sensor real estate wise, but the actual aspect ratio of it is completely different.
Yeah.
And that's because you have to stretch the have to stretch the film out. So when that happens, it's not 16:9 anymore. I don't know what an anamorphic ratio is.
So typically, like the traditional anamorphic is like 2.4, roughly 2.4 to 1, 2.39, somewhere in there.
And when you're filming anamorphic, does it hit the sensor like this and then like you stretch it out this way?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So it's compressing a much wider image to a narrower sensor area, and so after you shoot it, it's stretched back out.
And that's why it looks like, and back in the old VHS days, it's like, buy this in widescreen. And that's, the concept of that is, I think, and I could be completely BSing here, but that's where the black bars came from. Because when you're shooting anamorphic, when you do that stretch, it becomes a wider image, right? And then those black bars are to fit the other things that don't utilize black bars,
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's my theory on it, but I'm pretty sure that's where it came from. If not, sorry. Okay, whatever. Tell me in the comments down below. I see that there's 2 batteries here. Is that just for the camera alone, or what is that?
The shark fin. So yeah, I'll swing this around so you guys can see what Javier is talking about. So 2 batteries. You don't have to run 2 batteries on this thing. You can run a single, but in a cinema setting, a lot of times you're powering a lot of other stuff. So you can see this monitors here. You'd probably generally also be powering a wireless follow focus so that your AC can focus your lens during the shot. You're probably also running a wireless transmitter so that the people over at Video Village, the director, the producer, whoever, can watch the take play out without having to be right behind you looking at your monitor. So you're running a lot of accessories, so having the shark fin on there makes it easier to just power more stuff. Because this, as hungry as the red is for power, this is even more so.
I would assume that the thing's so heavy. Yeah, for sure.
Probably the more traditional way to do this is not even with V-mount batteries. You use like gold mount batteries.
I don't even know what that is. What's a gold mount battery?
They look very similar, but the mount is just a lot more secure. Let's put it that way. Yeah, it's gold mount. I mean, it's the best.
It sounds like in Zelda, like if you're leveling up, you went from a wooden sword to like the master sword.
It's basically that. Yeah,
exactly. Great analogy, Javier. High five. Okay, are these hotkeys over here?
Yes.
On this side, and I see the big rec button. For this setup, do you normally have it on your shoulder? Is this your shoulder mount camera?
I have done that. I don't like to do it.
I was gonna say, like, just by picking this thing up, I was like, this is not that.
Yeah.
This is not you like, oh hey guys, let's go do the interview. Yeah. No, that's not this camera.
No, it is not. It actually, so weirdly enough, although that definitely is not the intended purpose, you can see it
has a divot.
It does have the curve there. My rods are sticking into it right now. When you do put this on your shoulder, the balance is already perfect. You don't have to throw, like I mentioned on the red, you don't have to throw a shoulder mount into the equation. Front to back, it's heavy, but it's well balanced. So if you are going to shoot on the shoulder, it's not something you want to do for a long time, but it works pretty well.
When you see something that's like a Mad Max or something like that, is a camera like this on the gimbal that's on the car that's like driving and stuff like that?
Yeah, up until recently. So the Alexa Mini came out, I want to say 2015, maybe 2014. Which for the viewers, the Alexa Mini is like this, but like half the size. There are some trade-offs in that process.
For Alexa Mini, does it have the same power of like you turn it on and it just does what you want it to? Like you're getting the pictures that you want to, and it's like this is, even if you were to only be getting 1920 by 1080, 23.976, and that's all it did, it would still be like the best option.
Doing it right, yeah.
Okay.
So the one thing I really like about the whole Alexa family is the sensor in this camera is the same one from the first generation of Alexas from then on. The only difference is they made a bigger version of it, the 4x3 sensor for anamorphic, like I mentioned, but the sensor technology has not changed. It is the same. It's the Alev 3 sensor, or it might be 4, but the point being, the same sensor that you find in an Alexa from 2011 is in the brand new one that they just announced in 2018. It's that good. It's been a workhorse for all these years. Up until recently, like I said, they would have used this most of the time. There's definitely the support there to use a large camera like this. People have just moved on to the smaller stuff for specialty shots like that because it's more convenient, makes things go faster.
What about the price differential from something like the Red? What does this run?
These days, actually, depending on the model, because there are several, you can get a really good deal on these. Let's say you don't care about anamorphic and you just want to have an Alexa with that sensor, the 16:9 sensor instead of the slightly larger 4.3 that this one has. You can find packages out there for 10 grand for the old Alexa EVs. Now that is like the barest of bare bones Alexa, and it doesn't do a lot of things that the newer models will do. This one I actually got a good deal on, and before I started kitting it out, it was about 31 grand. I've probably put closer to 40 overall into the support gear for this one, but it originally retailed for somewhere north of 80,000, I want to say.
When was this camera released?
I believe this model came out in 2015.
Oh, okay.
It may have been a year or two before that. There are a few things that differentiate this one besides that. So you'll notice if you look on the side of the camera here, there are some ports down here for cables, and ports really all over the place. You see back here. And most of what those are designed to do are things that just make life on set easier. So that would be like a direct plug-in for your wireless follow focus.
As I'm focusing too.
Yeah. Basically just all these accessories you can power right off the camera. There's a port up here to jam sync. There's extra monitor and record outputs. It's a whole lot of extra stuff that this one will do that the bare bones one won't. It's got like a module inside where you can use internal ND filters. You don't need a matte box.
The memory. What is the memory on this?
You brought that up. So
go ahead.
This whole thing's built like a tank. So you can like lock in the memory module and it will be very safe inside there. But when you unlock this thing and open it up, you see, and I've got an adapter in there right now because there are different formats. There are different types of memory that this camera can use. The one that I've got right now that I think most people use is an S/S card. It is much cheaper than the Red media. So for instance, I said 128 on the Red would be around $900.
Yeah.
This one I got for $300. So it's really not too bad.
That's awesome.
And I can roll for 47 minutes and 3.2K on this. So it will get a lot more mileage out of the media on this one because it's not recording 8K. So yeah, it's actually a really surprisingly affordable memory situation with this thing.
Yeah, it's weird hearing you talk about this as opposed to the Red because it's just like it can get so expensive there.
Yeah.
This is like upfront, like you pay for it and then you got it.
You notice like the EVF, electronic viewfinder, is a lot more. So nowadays everything has a monitor on it, and I'm obviously using one here. But a lot of DPs, myself included, if you have the option to for the shot, would prefer to operate with an EVF versus a monitor like this one. you're more immersed in it when you're looking through an EVF than you ever really will be with a monitor, because the monitor, when you think about it, when you look at it, you're seeing the whole world around the monitor too. Whereas when you're looking into an EVF, all you're seeing is the image, and you see where everything falls in the frame, and it just gives you more to think about when you look at it, and like more
you're focused on
exactly. Yeah,
on
that's
you're
saying it better than I am.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's one thing, and then just other than that, one of the other things I think is really cool about this camera is it looks and feels like a tank, because it is truly built like one, and there are some crazy stories. I'll send you some links to Alexas that have been through like hell and back and still functioned. I mean, like fire dropped off of like a building, like that type of stuff.
That's crazy.
Like if you ever saw that episode of Top Gear where the truck, like they dropped the truck, you know, the old ass Toyota.
Did they put Alexa on it?
No. I'm just saying,
that sounds like something, if you're dropping a truck out of the air, you don't do that.
No. But it's just it's like the camera version of that truck. It's really it's like that durable. They've been through some pretty crazy stuff.
I believe the audio equivalent would be like an SM57 or an SM58. It's like that's the that's the microphone. It's the one that you use on a stage to like for singers. That's the microphone. One of the reasons why it's the stage microphone is because it's a tank. It's like the GoPro of that that demographic.
It just takes the abuse and keeps working.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
For sure. It seems like there could be more to talk about, but I feel like
it's a good primer.
Yeah, and people that want to dive more into it, I don't really think this is the episode to do that, because I just wanted to learn about these cameras in general compared to something like this or an A7, or like if you're using like a Canon, like an 80D, or like what about these cameras makes them cinematography like just beast compared to utilizing something like an 80D or something like that.
Sure.
Side note, 80D, like Canon, why did you name it 80D? Because it's like ADD.
I never thought about that.
There's other episodes with Scott, so go ahead and check those out. I'll link them. Where can they find you?
I am at Undead Batteries on Instagram.
Undead Batteries. Check him out, man. He does documentaries, he does commercial, he does cinematic short films, he does films, he does behind the scenes. Like when you watch something like on ESPN, like the 60 for 60, right? That's
30 for 30. There's E60.
Yeah. Like the type of shots that are in those things, it's a person like him doing that kind of stuff. So definitely check out his work. And if you like this episode, go ahead and give it a like. Go ahead and give it a subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Oh, hey, look, subscribe.
Hey,
subscribe. Anyhow, till next time, guys. If you like this content, go ahead and come back, and we'll keep doing things like this. See you guys later.
Awesome.